أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Amma Ba'd. Welcome back, brothers. Discussion of fiqh. We talked about zakat. We're kind of wrapping it up today, hopefully, inshallah. We looked at the definitions, rulings, conditions, and so on earlier. We also saw the forms of wealth. This is just a quick recap on zakat, wealth. And if you have any questions today, maybe we can have some questions on this if you wish. Also, different forms of wealth, the produce of the earth. We look at this. And there's one of the exceptional cases where you do not have to wait for one lunar year or one Hijriya year to give the zakat. Now, this is an exception compared to the other forms of wealth. Then you have the anam category, the camels, the cows, including buffaloes, and sheep, also including goats. And we saw some various slabs, levels for this in terms of sheep and cows and what you give. And ideally, you give an animal. So the principle is that you give zakat in the same form as the wealth on which it is due. So you give zakat in the same form as the wealth on which it is due. Like this case, right? Sheep and cows and so on and so forth. And camels, we saw this as well. We saw also the recipients of zakat, Surah Tawbah, ayat number 60, Fukara, Masakin, and so on. We looked at this. We looked at what these mean and some examples as well. And we said this point number 4, or the category number 4, is the only one which can be a non-Muslim. Which can be, yeah? Doesn't have to be. And then we saw freeing slaves, prisoners of war, prisoners in jails, Muslim prisoners in jails. All this, you can use zakat money, inshallah. Those in debt, we looked at this as well. And fi sabilillah is actually in the cause, which means fighting for the sake of Allah, and everything surrounding that. Weaponry, the warriors, the families, orphans, logistics, everything surrounding that. It doesn't mean masjid, it doesn't mean a Muslim orphanage, no. And finally, we saw a stranded traveler as well, he can receive zakat. So we have 8 categories, brothers, and not all of them are poor or needy. Just 2 of them are poor and needy. Everything else is a different category, and you're free to give your zakat money or whatever zakat wealth you have to them. And I think we mentioned this, right? If you want to give it to a Muslim hospital or a Muslim orphanage, you don't give it generally, but you target, depending on the amount you have to spend and the expenses, you target a child there, or maybe more than one child, and give them zakat with the intention of them being in the category of poor or needy. Because again, you need to check, because not every orphan is, again, like we said, poor or needy. Yeah, orphans sometimes are rich, and they have a trust fund, and the people are taking care of their money and so on until they come of age. Taib, we stopped there, so we want to continue. In terms of the recipients, it's preferred to target your Muslim relatives if they are in need. Yeah, if they are one of the 8 categories, it's better to give it to them than to anybody else. It's better you give it to them than to anybody else, because in this case, you're doing 2 things with one action, 2 birds with 1 stone, as they say. Yeah. You're fulfilling the obligation of zakat, and B, you're doing what we call silat rahim. You are bringing closer the ties of the womb or kinship. Yeah. So you're doing both in this manner. And you don't have to tell them it is zakat money. People ask me this question, Ustad, I want to give zakat to my cousin or my uncle, he's in need. Should I tell him it's zakat money, get a receipt, a challan? No, ya sheikh. Just give him the money. You don't have to tell him it's zakat money. No, you don't have to tell anybody it's zakat money. Unless there is a benefit coming out of that. Yeah. Like in case you want to delegate to somebody and you want to make sure they give it to the right recipient, then you tell them, yeah, this is zakat money, be careful. Yeah, make sure it gets to the right person. That's something else as an exception. But other generally, Allah knows. Allah knows your act of worship. He knows your intention. He knows this is zakat money. So, especially with relatives, because sometimes, when you say this, they feel a bit, what shall we say, um, less privileged or something like this, or they feel a bit hurt that they're receiving zakat and funds and so on. You don't have to tell them all of this, right? The other point is that you can give zakat to relatives who are not under your responsibility. See, the beauty of the deen of Islam, as no other way of life, is that it has put in place certain roles, certain responsibilities, certain rights, privileges, and so on and so forth for the betterment of the Muslim himself and herself and the Ummah in general. Yeah. So as a Muslim, I'm responsible for my father. As a Muslim, I'm responsible for my son. As a Muslim, I'm responsible to take care of my wife or wives. So these are by default responsibility. So I cannot give them zakat because I'm going to take care of. I have to take care. If I think, look at it this way, brothers. Because somebody asked this question once. Can I give zakat to my, I don't know, father or something? I forget. So if the person thinks that he wants to give zakat money, subhanallah, subhanallah, to his father or son or wife, which means he is not taking care of them properly. Yes or no? Yes. Because he's not taking care of them properly, that's why they have fallen in need, and now he wants to give them zakat money, subhanallah. So there is no zakat to someone who is your responsibility. Taib. But anyone else, like a cousin, for example, cousins are not your responsibility. You can give zakat to them, uncle, aunts, so on and so forth. Yeah. But for the wife, now let's say we have a situation where the wife has some money or gold, whatever, and zakat is due. And like we said last time on the previous sessions, it is highly encouraged for the sisters to give their own zakat because this is an act of worship. It is a pillar of Islam. The husband, jazakallah khair, he may volunteer if he wishes sometimes, but I would recommend not for him not to make a habit out of it, not to do it every year. Maybe you do it 1 year and then just to get some ajr, inshallah. That's fine, alhamdulillah. But don't make it a habit because your wife should give. Your sisters should give. They should give zakat if they have the money. If it is their wealth and they're the sole owner of the wealth, and zakat is due, they have to give zakat. This is an act of worship. Doesn't she want the same reward as you will be rewarded? So she should want the reward more. In fact, she should say, no, don't give it for me. I will do it myself. But today, sometimes, subhanAllah, you have sisters who say, Ustad, my husband is not giving my zakat. Hey, why should he give your zakat? You get the point. Your wealth is your wealth. Unless you give it to him, that's something else. If you donate your wealth to him, now he will give zakat for that. No problem. But they don't want to do that, right? They want to keep their wealth to themselves. But they say, Ustad, my husband is not giving zakat. Why don't you advise him? No, I want to advise you first. Right? So let's have a situation where the wife has some wealth and zakat is due. And the husband has fallen into, let's say, some tough times. So I don't know, Allah, maybe he lost his job or his business is having issues. He's fallen into debt. He's now into one of these 8 categories. In this situation, the wife now she can give zakat to her husband because the wife is not responsible for the husband. It's the other way around. But subhanAllah, today we have turned the tables around and Allah al-Mustan, Allah have hidayah, give us hidayah. We have sisters working all over the place. Subhanallah, yani. Ajib, wallahi, ajib. Ya brothers, we are destroying our families. We are destroying the ummah. We are causing problems between husband and wife by making the sisters go out and work. This is a different topic. It's not the topic of zakat today, but it's a major cancer in the society today. So anyway, so in this case, the wife, she can give zakat money to the husband. Clear? The first 2 points, the difference between those two, right? Zakat is not for building roads, not for hospitals, not for schools, but if these are mujahid, because these are for the mujahid, then zakat is payable. So, I'm talking about the category number 7. People try to expand it and they use it for roads, hospitals, schools, I don't know, television stations, and so on and so forth. No, this is wrong. This is wrong. Right. You don't believe me? Go back and look at books of tafsir, the classical books of tafsir, and read the tafsir of ayat number 16, Surah Tawbah. So that was zakat, brothers. Any questions before we get into Siyam? Please raise your hands if you have a question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How about zakat to your immediate brother or immediate sister, if they are really if they are poor or needy, that is allowed, right? Immediate brother and sister.
Yeah. So the brother's question is that can I give zakat to my blood brother or blood sister? So again, are you responsible for them? That's the point, right? Because let's say situation. Let's look at different situations or use cases. Let's say you're living, both of you are not married, so both are brothers, they're not married, and the father is taking care of them, right? Now, one of the brothers, he's in need. The other brother has money and zakat is due for him, right? So the scholars say, ideally, in this situation, he's still not responsible for this other brother because the father is there, the father is taking care of them. But let's say we have a situation where the father cannot take care of them and the father himself is dependent on the sons, or he's dependent on, I don't know, retirement funds, pension funds, whatever. In this case, you do not give zakat because you're supposed to take care of your brother. This is something required. Likewise, even for sisters, even when they are married, even when they get married, scholars differ here, but some scholars say that, in fact, I'm trying to remember the scholar who was asked this question. Oh, there was a scholar, contemporary scholar, who was asked this question in Saudi. And someone asked this question that, my sister, she's married and living somewhere else. And, they're having a tough time that the husband, the brother-in-law, the sister's husband has lost his job or something like that. And they're having a tough time. Can I give her zakat money? The sheikh, he stopped everything. He switched, he just cut the session off. And he said, what kind of a question is this? He said, if you don't take care of your sister, whom are you going to take care of? So the point the Sheikh was trying to make is that zakat is not due for her because you should take care of her. She has fallen into tough times. Yes, she's married. The husband is supposed to take care, but the husband is not able to do that now. So you need, if you can do that, you should take care of them. That was his point, that, you don't even think of zakat. Just take care of them. So coming back to your question, yes. So this is how it is. If you're responsible for them, and in most cases you are, there is no zakat then because you need to take care of them anyhow. But if the brother is living somewhere else, he's married, he has his own family. The scholars differed. The scholars differed in this case. But ideally, I would say you take care of them anyway, and try not to use zakat money for that. Wallahu a'lam. Wallahu. Taib, any other questions? Okay, so let's proceed, inshallah, with the next topic on the agenda, which is Siyam. Again, a topic which most of you, alhamdulillah, know, all of you, inshallah, know. You've been fasting Ramadans, you've been fasting Nafil, inshallah. It's very easy, but we want to, because it's there in the course, we need to study it. Maybe some points are not clear, we can clarify that. Maybe some points are new sometimes, it happens, yeah. So the sub-agenda topics for Siyam is that we look at the definition ruling again, as we saw in Zakat, the merits and benefits. Again, like in Zakat, we look at the arkan and the shurut, the pillars and the conditions. We look at what nullifies fasting, a very important point. Most questions are centered around this point. The nawaqid of Siyam, what is breaking the fast. And finally, certain mustahab deeds in fasting. And we'll focus in Ramadan fasting, actually, and what is makruh during fasting, what is haram during fasting, and so on and so forth. Taib, clear? Okay. So, definition. Like we had in zakat, we have a Lughat al-Arabiya mana, so there is a language meaning, a linguistic meaning. A siyam is to abstain from something, to stay away from something. Okay? So in the Sharia, in the istilah meaning, it's more focused. So you're staying away, right? It's okay, it's a way of worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal by abstaining intentionally. So it's a voluntary act, it is intentional. Staying away from what? Food, drink, sexual intercourse, and other things that break one's fast from dawn to dusk. So it's a very good, comprehensive, simple definition. So we are worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. So again, like you see, brothers, the istilah meaning has not changed from the Lughat al-Arabiya mana. It is the same, but it's now more focused, more contextual. Yeah. Siyam is a way of worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal by intentionally abstaining from food, drink, sexual intercourse, and other things that break one's fast from dawn to dusk. So, again, many Muslims think, even this day and age, that when you fast, you just don't eat or don't drink. Yeah, they don't realize there are other things which can potentially break their fast. Taib. So that's important, and we'll look at that inshallah, all of this. The ruling, again, it's clear, it's wada, it's obvious that it is the fourth pillar of Islam, which means it is obligatory, it is fard, it's wajib, it is mandatory. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Baqarah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. So Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, those who have believed, like ourselves, inshallah, and those who have believed, kutiba alaykum as-siyam. Kutiba is from kataba, written down. It is written down for you, mandated for you. It is obligatory for you. Alaykum, for you, as-siyam. Kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum. As it was made mandatory or prescribed for those before you. La'allakum tattaqun. So that you may become muttaqi, or muttaqun. So from this we understand various things from this ayat. So let's break it down. First of all, the fact that it is only for the people who are believers, obviously. Because usually, especially in this part of the world, in the Gulf regions, when Ramadan comes, alhamdulillah, everything closes in terms of restaurants, coffee shops. They all close during the day. Nobody's open, yeah? So many non-Muslims who are working in the Gulf, they also don't eat and drink. And they said, and they, tell the Muslim friends and colleagues, hey, even I'm fasting. Right, okay. You're fasting just from a medical perspective. That's it. There is no ajr for you. There's no reward for you because you have not completed the first pillar. You're jumping to the fourth without finishing the first. You see? So, it's not required of you. If you want to do it, go ahead and do it. There's no ajr. So, the requirement, the mandation is only for those who have believed. And the second point we learn from the ayat is that it is obligatory because kutiba alaykum as-siyam. Kutiba, kataba, it's mandated for you. So it's obligatory. Kama, as it was, or kama ala alladhina min qabl, as for those before you. So which means the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not the first people who are fasting. People before us fasted. The people of Isa alayhi salam, the people of Musa alayhi salam, they all fasted. So as they fasted, as it was made mandatory for them, obligatory for them, it is also obligatory for us. So why are we fasting? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So that we can achieve taqwa. What is taqwa, brothers? How would you explain taqwa? Now, Islam Zahir.
Yes, the fear of Allah.
Fear of Allah. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else wants to say anything, add anything? Hassan, no problem, inshallah. So yes, it is in a short sentence, you can say the fear of Allah. khushu, taqwa, fear of Allah. Right? Umar bin Khattab, Amir al-Mu'minin radiallahu anh, he gave a very nice explanation to it once. So one of the Sahabi, he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'minin, what is taqwa? So he replied, he said, have you ever crossed a pathway or a street which has thorns in it, thorns or some sharp objects or some rocks, sharp rocks? If you have to cross something that is, what would you do? So he would say, Amir al-Mu'minin, he said, Amir al-Mu'minin, I would lift my thob, my outfit, lift my thob, and be careful where I place my feet. Umar bin Khattab, radiallahu anh, he said, that is taqwa. That is taqwa. So the fear of Allah, if you want to say that, outwardly, inwardly, when you're in a group of people, when you're single and alone, when you're alone in the house, when you're traveling somewhere else, when you're family, with family, out without family, in all situations, is the fear of Allah. And fasting trains you in that. You fast to develop the fear of Allah. Because, I mean, honestly, we have Muslims who fast, alhamdulillah, let's say Ramadan. And like we said, this part of the world, everything is closed. But there's nothing stopping a Muslim, for example. Let's say he's living alone. Yeah, nobody is there with him. He's a bachelor, whatever. He's living alone. So what's stopping him from going to his house in the afternoon, let's say 1 o'clock in the afternoon, opening the refrigerator and taking a glass of juice and drinking it, or water, drinking it, or eating an apple or a banana? What's stopping him? Why does he, even if he's alone, nobody's there, nobody can see him. He's alone in the house. Nobody will know he had a banana. What's stopping him? Taqwa. Taqwa of Allah. So he will not do that. You will not find a Muslim who does that. Very rare, very rare. Allahu musta'an. So they wait until iftar time. So this fasting, it trains you in that. That's what the ayat refers to. Also, in terms of fasting, and this is the second dalil, the ayat in Surah Baqarah again, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس والبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم. So the point I want to focus on is that where is that? فمن شهد منكم ومنكم الشهر فليصم. Those who witness this month, which month? The month of Ramadan, فليصم. They should fast. So again, an obligation. So that's the second evidence we see today about the obligation, or the dalil for the obligation of fasting. Of course, the ayat before that is also important, that this is the month in which Shahr Ramadan al-Lazi, this month Ramadan, is the month in which unzila fihi al-Quran, we revealed the Quran as a guidance for mankind, hudan lin-nas, and the criteria bayanati min al-huda, for the right and wrong, wal furqan. So it is also the month of the Quran. That is Ramadan, generally speaking. Yeah. But coming back to fasting, yes. And the ayat continues. It talks about some fiqh issues in terms of people who are sick or on a journey, how they can make up from the days after that. وَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيدًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٍ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخْرَى. So you count the days from other days, or you take from other days. Yeah. So that's something we'll see as we go along. But for now, the point I wanted to just focus on with this ayat is that فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. So the one who witnesses this month, who's alive during this month, Allah keeps him alive to see Ramadan, he should fast. So fasting in Ramadan is obligatory, mandatory. And like we said, our focus for Siyam is Ramadan in this course. So based on this, the hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Bunya al-Islam ala khams. Islam, or the structure of Islam, or the building of Islam is built upon 5. And he mentioned fasting the month of Ramadan. So it's also a pillar. So that's enough evidence for a Muslim to realize the criticality of fasting Ramadan. If someone denies, like we saw in Zakat, brothers, if someone denies the obligation of fasting the month of Ramadan, then he is outside of Islam. So if someone says, in spite of all these evidences, we give him the evidence, he says, no, I don't believe fasting Ramadan is an obligation. I think it is only mustahab, or it is, preferred. This person has left Islam. So if he dies, he's not to be buried in a Muslim graveyard. He's not to receive inheritance. If someone else dies in his family, or his money cannot go to anybody else. No ghusl, nothing for him when he dies. He's left Islam. So if he's interested again, he needs to renew his shahadatain and come back into Islam. Like in Zakat, if someone does not fast the month of Ramadan, knowing its obligation. And we have people sometimes, because in this region, everyone is fasting, everything is closed, and you can't really escape it, they leave. So before Ramadan starts a day or two, they go to some European country, American country, whatever, spend Ramadan there. They say it's a business trip, or they say it's a vacation, whatever. And they come back just before Eid to spend Eid with the family. Because they love their food. They love their whatever, McDonald's, whatever. And they want to eat stuff. They can't be without food and water. They know it's obligatory. They know it's an obligation. But they're committing. So this is what we say, they're committing a major sin. A kabira. It's not a small sin, it's a major sin. It requires specific tawbah. The person is still a Muslim, but he has committed a major sin. Wada? Right. Merits, benefits. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, said, meaning which is, every good deed of the son of Adam alayhi salam is multiplied in reward 10 to 700 times. Allah proclaims, except for fasting. For it is for me, and I will grant the reward for it. He leaves his passion, that is the slave, leaves his passion and his food for my sake. And the fasting person has 2 moments of joy, one when he breaks his fast, and the other when he meets his Rabb. And the smell that comes out from the fasting person is more pleasing and pleasant to Allah than the smell of musk. Rawah Bukhari or Muslim. So, what do we understand from this hadith? First of all, the bounty, the generosity, the what shall we say, the great blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored upon us. That every good deed that we do, inshallah, is automatically multiplied. The ajr is from 10 to 700. So a deed you do XYZ, you may get 10 times the reward for one deed. But the deed you do XYZ, you may get 700 times the reward for that deed. And it depends on one's ikhlas and sincerity and niyyah. Give me an example of an action or a deed or a action which is rewarded 10 times for one.
Sending salutation, Durud Sharif to
No. Jazakallah khair. There are many, that's one of them. Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair. Anything else? Anything more we do? Okay, that's fine. Salat wa salam ala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Naam. Salah as well. Each salah you pray, you get 10 times the reward. Recitation of the Quran. Alif wa harf, lam wa harf, mim wa harf. 10 times for each. So there are various examples, right? So anyway, that's the first point. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in spite of this great blessing and generosity, He has not included in this fasting. Because He says, this hadith Qudsi, He says, except for fasting. For it is for me and I will grant the reward for it. Right? Even salah is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even the salat and salam is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We expect the reward from Him. But to drive the importance of fasting and the great benefit in it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala singles it out again. And he says why he leaves his passion and his food for my sake. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says passion here, or the meaning of the hadith. Because again, going back to the definition, we said anyone abstaining from, what did we say? Food, drink, sexual intercourse, and other things which may break the fast. So the person is leaving his passion for the sake of Allah, from dawn to dusk. Let's say a newly married person. He just got married, and the next day Ramadan starts. It's challenging for him. And it's his first marriage, for example. It's challenging. But he leaves his passion from dawn to dusk. After dusk, he is completely halal, it is completely jaiz for him to approach his wife. No issues. So some people again think that you can't approach your wife the whole month. No, this is wrong. Deen is very easy and very simple. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the fasting person. So the reward of fasting, we don't know. The sky is the limit, as they say. It could be 1 billion, 1 trillion. It's up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Depending on your niyyah, your intention, your ikhlas, and the manner of fasting. Is it as per the manhaj of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? And then Rasulullah said the fasting person has 2 moments of joy. One, when he meets his Rabb on the Day of Judgment. So he's pleased, and inshallah the Rabb is pleased with him because of his fasting for his sake, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second is when he breaks his fast. And this we all experience, right? So you're fasting the whole day, and the whole day we're okay, alhamdulillah. And subhanallah, this is something which I want to mention. Let's say a normal day, right? Any normal day, which is not Ramadan and you're not fasting. You go to the office or something, and let's say you missed your breakfast, or you got up late, you didn't have time, you had some meetings, there was no time, you didn't have breakfast. So by the time it's like 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, your stomach starts rumbling. You want to eat something. And you go to snack something or eat something, whatever, sandwich, blah, blah, blah. The point I'm trying to make is the same thing in Ramadan. Same thing in Ramadan. And this time you've eaten for suhoor, let's say 4 o'clock in the morning. 11 o'clock comes, nothing happens. 2 o'clock comes, nothing happens. You're perfectly okay. Alhamdulillah. The same person, the same body, the same food you had. But how come in Ramadan, you're not so bad, you don't feel so hungry? Except, of course, closer to iftar time. But in a normal day, you start feeling hungry. Why? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of it. Because you're leaving the food and drink for His sake, He's taking care of things for you. Allah Akbar. And before iftar, as we know, as we all experience, you're now all excited, you want to eat, you want to drink, and you have the spread in front of you, the whatever, fruit, curds, salads, juices, samosas, everything. This is the second moment of joy, the hadith says, just before breaking the fast. And then the last point is what is very important. Because when you fast, brothers, when you excuse me, you sometimes have what they call a bad smell coming out of your mouth, right? Maybe you didn't do siwak, you didn't, whatever the reason. It's not a very pleasant smell. But that smell is more pleasing to Allah than the smell of musk. And we all know the smell of musk. Why? Again, because the slave has done this act of worship for the sake of Allah. So it all boils down to the intention. How strong and how khalis and how pure and sincere an intention is. So all these rewards are directly proportional to the intention. The niyyah. So don't fast just because everybody's fasting. The whole family is fasting. If I don't fast, what will my dad say? What will my wife say? What will my son say? No. You fast for the sake of Allah. Even if you're on an island, all alone, you will still fast. Some more hadith about the merits of fasting Ramadan from Abu Hurairah again, from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning of which is, whoever fasts Ramadan out of sincere faith and hoping for its reward from Allah will have all of his previous sins forgiven. Rawahu Bukhari wa Muslim. Allahu Akbar. All you have to do is to fast with the correct intention, sincere ikhlas, sincere faith, and hope for the ajr, reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All your previous minor sins are forgiven, minor sins. Like we said again, major sins require specific tawbah. They are not automatically washed away. But all of us do so many minor sins every day. We need this kind of kafara. Also from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, when Ramadan begins, the gates of Jannah are opened up, paradise. The gates of hellfire are closed. And the devils are chained. Rawahu Bukhari Muslim. So again, a great virtue for fasting. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Ramadan, He opens up the gates of Jannah. How many gates to Jannah, brothers? How many gates does Jannah have? Brother Isam?
Yes, 8.
Hellfire, Annar.
Sorry.
Hellfire.
Hellfire also 8.
Right, okay. Jazakallah khair. So Jannah has 8 gates, but hellfire has 7 gates. There is 1 gate less. So even in terms of the number of gates, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants more people to enter Jannah. He has 8 gates to Jannah. But hellfire, there are 7 gates. And during Ramadan, He opens up the gates of Jannah. As a welcome, as an invitation, ahlan wa sahlan. The gates of hellfire are closed. And to give you, what shall we say, a bonus there as well, the shayateen are chained. They cannot mess around with you. This is referring to the major shayateen, not the Kareen, the jinni who is appointed to each and every person that is always there. But these are referred to the major shayateen. This is the understanding of the scholars for this hadith. Barakallahu feek. Okay, we'll stop there, inshallah. If you have any questions on what we did until now? If not, we will stop, inshallah, and continue with Siyam next week, inshallah. خلاص؟ طيب. بارك الله فيكم. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.